Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to our first annual financial reset for the new year. I have not always been in a place where I feel like I know enough about finances or feel in a good enough spot about finances to share about finances, but now that I'm settled into my post-grad life, I do want to try and dabble in kind of some more financial content, not necessarily advice, but just openness, vulnerability, authenticity, so that we can walk this little financial life together. In the past, I have set financial goals, but not all of them have been very well thought out or very well educated. So in this video, we will reflect on 2024's goals. We're going to set more intentional and more thorough 2025 goals. And then we're also going to set up my new yearly budget tracker. So some background about me as we get into this video. I am 24 years old, going on 25 real soon within the month. I am a social worker. I have both my bachelor's and my master's, and I have about 2.5 years of post-grad experience. I'll also say a lot of what I've learned financially has been from my partner. He has been a lot more knowledgeable than I have and have kind of guided me in the correct direction even when I haven't been quite certain. But the goals that we're setting this year, I think will continue on that trajectory of just trying to be financially healthy as a young person navigating their 20s. So looking back on my goals for 2024, I had 3 financial goals. My top financial goal was to contribute the maximum amount to my Roth IRA, which I was able to do, and I feel really good about it. It definitely is a sacrifice to put as much money as you can into a Roth where you're not going to be able to access it soon. Like, it's kind of locked away in there. But also being young, the investments that you make in retirement accounts in your early 20s, mid 20s, even late 20s are very valuable because they have the most time that they're able to grow, and those dollars go further than if you're making that same level of sacrifice in your 30s and 40s. So I do feel proud of contributing the maximum amount to my Roth IRA, but more so in the way of I know that like future Anna will feel glad to be able to retire at the time that I do with the sacrifices that I've made this year and in upcoming years, hopefully. My second goal was to get a raise in 2024, which I did, and I actually technically got 2 raises. In my job, they do a yearly merit increase, which is not that impressive of a number from what I've heard in the yearlies, but thankfully this year at my job, we also got a market increase. I think honestly what was happening was a lot of people were leaving to competitors because competitors were paying much more, which does make you think like, could I be making a lot more if I were to go to that competitor? But they did do the market adjustment, which I was very thankful for. And so in total this year, I got a 15% raise. That is not gonna happen every year, but I do feel so grateful for it this year and for the different financial goals that I was able to accomplish with that extra 15%. The third financial goal that I had for 2024 was to invest alongside my high yield savings account. I do put my savings in a high yield savings account in order to get that interest, so they're growing to an extent while they're sitting in there, and it is nice to have that. But at the beginning of this year, I was wanting to expand a little bit into where I was saving. This one I did not do. I do have a brokerage account, but I did not add anything into it this year. It's actually been a while since I have added anything into that account. But what kind of changed was that at the beginning of this year, I did not know that I would be planning a wedding, and then I ended up planning and paying for a wedding this year too. And so I needed the money that I had in savings to be much more easily accessible than it would be in a brokerage account. So I do feel good that I have that brokerage account, but I definitely have not contributed to it growing. It's literally just been the stock market making it grow, and that may be a future goal. Looking into 2025, I set 10 financial goals for myself. So we increased from just having 3 main goals to having 10 goals that I do plan on tracking and keeping track of and keeping at the forefront of my mind. I do not plan on planning another wedding, so hopefully there won't be too many things that really throw a loop in the finances this year, and I think we'll be able to stick to these. Several of these are exact numbers, several of these are mindsets, kind of like more, what's the word? Like not a SMART goal, just like a intention, I suppose. And then several of these things are tasks to do that I plan on doing this year. So number 1 goal that I'm setting for myself is, I'm calling it my AGI goal, my adjusted gross income goal. And it's a number that I would like to hit when I'm filing taxes next year. I don't know if it's going to be attainable. And this one, I'm not going to share specifically what my AGI goal is, but what I will share is that from 2023 to 2024, my AGI grew 17%, which a lot of that was due to the raise that I got, but I got that raise in June. So it was only half the year that I had that raise. My AGI grew 17%, so I'm going to shoot for another 15% growth in my income for this year. And since I'm not counting on getting another market raise, part of that will try to be like monetizing social media further, gaining more money that way, maybe finding another way to monetize some part of my life, either like a side hustle or just something like that. Or maybe also the raises I get this year could surprise me in what they are. I'm trying to undershoot what I think my raises could be this year so that I can be like happily surprised whenever they maybe are higher than that. But overall, in all of my sources of income, I'm hoping to grow by 15% from 2024 to 2025. Number 2 is that I am planning on contributing the maximum amount to my Roth IRA once again. This past year it was $7,000 and I believe it's staying $7,000. I do not believe it increased. Maybe I should check that. Yes, correct. Since I'm under 50, if you are 50 or older, then you could contribute $8,000 because it's like a catch-up thing. But since I am under 50, I can contribute $7,000 to my Roth IRA, and I do plan on doing that again. I will have to come up with a different plan to do that. At the beginning of 2024, I honestly just took from my savings $7,000 and put it straight into my Roth and then just let it sit there, and it was done in January. I had the maximum amount. I don't think I'll be able to do that this year since the wedding is in January, and so there's just different expenses and we're starting the year off a little bit differently. So what I do think is that I'll finish paying for the wedding, I'll build back up my emergency fund, and then whatever I have on top of my emergency fund, that's when I'll start just focusing entirely on the Roth IRA before putting into other savings buckets on top of my emergency fund. Which that does bring me to goal number 3, is that my goal is to have a full emergency fund once again. My goal emergency fund is always $10,000. Honestly, with living expenses, $10,000 is definitely over 3 months of expenses and under 6 months of expenses. So I just feel like it's kind of a good thing. Also because we have my partner and I's money both. And so really like my $10,000, if it were just for me and my emergency fund, that is like very chock full. And so I feel like $10,000 is a good number for me at this time in my life. Full disclosure, right now I technically have a full emergency fund, but with wedding expenses that'll come up in the next month, I don't know how much I'll dip below it. So it's kind of hard to like visualize it right now, but whatever amount I dip below my $10,000, I plan on fully focusing on getting that back to $10,000 before doing anything else this year, just to have the safety of an emergency fund. I have not always been at a time in my life where I could have an emergency fund, much less a full emergency fund. And there have been times that like my entire net worth has been like $100 or less. But with that comes a lot of anxiety, especially just with the fact that unexpected expenses can come up at literally any time. So like the times of my life that I did not have emergency funds also just seemed to happen to be the times of my life that I was having to make like crazy car repairs, or I was gonna say something, I feel like all of my like crazy expenses out of nowhere were for my car. So not only is having an emergency fund smart when you're able to do it and prioritize it, it also just like makes life less anxious in my experience, because you're less likely to get taken down with a big blow. But it does require sacrifice to save what you can. And again, let me emphasize that with my like jobs and going through school and everything, I've not always been at a time where I could have a full emergency fund. But when you are at a time that you can, I highly encourage you to prioritize that. Goal number 4 is to save for a down payment on a car. You would know this if you follow my channel and like watch the vlogs and everything, but I currently do not have a car that is my own. My partner has a car. So we're a 1-car household for right now, which honestly has helped save money a lot, because I mean, car insurance, car repairs, saves gas. Cars are expensive, and cars in Atlanta are expensive because insurance is crazy here, because people are crazy here. And I'm at a point right now where like I can get to and from work without a car. There hasn't really come up times where my partner and I need to be different places at the exact same time that we can't work out transportation wise. However, I don't know how long into our future that will work out, and so I would prefer to have a down payment, and like a big down payment, because whenever I do buy a car, I would like to make a big down payment and have smaller monthly payments. But I want to be at a place where I just like have that, so that when the time comes that I do need to purchase a car again, I have that money saved and I don't have to necessarily at that time make like huge sacrifices to then have like a huge monthly car payment. I would just like to avoid that if possible. So I haven't quite decided yet what percentage of like high yield savings account versus the money that I do have in my brokerage, like what will go to what. But my goal is to have around $10,000, $15,000 for a car down payment. That's not a necessity, but I do not want to become car poor with a monthly payment that is huge or to pay so much more in interest. I would just like to avoid that if possible. My fifth goal is to increase my 403b percentage coming from my paycheck. I work for a nonprofit, so that's why it's a 403b instead of a 401k, but my 403b is my retirement account. It is the equivalent of a 401k. It is just called something different. In 2024, I started the year contributing 5% pre-tax to my 403b. Whenever I got my 15% raise, we increased my contribution to 6%, and we also made it be a Roth post-tax contribution. So that's honestly where my paychecks did not see as much of my 15% raise as it would have been fun for them to see, but that is because we increased the contribution to my retirement account and also made it post-tax, which are decisions that honestly were educated and led by my partner because like I said, he knows a lot more than I do, but I do feel good about them. And again, it's kind of I want to prioritize putting as much into retirement while I'm young because number one, that gives it the most time to grow. These are like valuable times to invest into retirement. And number two, I probably have the lowest expenses, wedding aside, I probably have the lowest expenses, living expenses right now in my life than I ever will again. And so it is easier to make sacrifices now than at like future times in life whenever I just have more expenses going on. So my goal this year is to increase my 403b to 7% and keep it Roth. My employer matches up to 4% of my 403b contributions. So by contributing 7%, that's kind of like 11% of my paycheck that's going, or like 11% amount of my paycheck that's going into my retirement, which feels nice. It feels good. Goal number 6 is associated to getting married this year. My partner and I want to intentionally join our finances. To be honest, with like wedding planning and things, and also just the fact that we've been together so long and have lived together so long, there's nothing that we're changing day one of marriage to make ourselves be more married finances, but we do want to like read some books, I don't know, listen to a podcast, find some good videos on YouTube, kind of see what is good to do in order to join finances, because we honestly haven't decided yet what we want to do about like joint accounts or paying bills or everything, because we do have a system in place since we have lived together so long, and for a while it's kind of just been that both of our money is both of our money, but we do want to intentionally address like having a joint mindset about our finances together as two people as a whole and come up with some sort of system that works for us as far as sharing and managing and tracking and all of that together instead of just separately. I feel like where we kind of tend to is that he is the best at like investment and planning and retirement and being smart with savings. I can put something in an HYSA all day, but he has like better plans beyond that for savings. And I feel like I tend to be the one that gravitates towards like budget tracking and like spending and seeing what bills are due when. And so we do kind of split things already, but we do just want to intentionally join instead of it being mine and his finances, it just being both of our finances together. So I'm not sure exactly how we're going to do that yet, but we do want to do it. Goal number 7 is to send leftover money to savings. I usually do this anyways. The wedding changes everything, obviously. After getting a paycheck and knowing where it's allocated to, what it's paying for, immediately sending my checking account into my savings account, basically. Obviously with some buffer, but I do think despite intentionally saving this year, there are times where it'll be like a couple paychecks kind of sitting in my checking account where like they could be gaining interest in a savings account. So they could just head on over there. I think in my head, I never want to pull from my savings account. I have such trouble pulling from a savings account, which is probably good, but it just means that I like am less likely to send money to my savings account because I don't want to have to get it back. And so I would like rather my money sit in my checking account for a month until I need it instead of going to savings and then coming back. So I don't really know how to fix that, but I do just want to like intentionally be like, okay, this money has gone towards all of the bills and spending that it needs to, and so now it's just gonna go sit in the savings account instead of sitting in the checking account. Goal number 8 is to mindfully focus finances. I've also seen this, I kind of came up with that phrase in my head, not that it's so original, but then I was watching a couple other people's financial resets, and I forget if it was someone that said it or someone said that it was said in a book, but basically just spend in alignment, mindfully focus finances. And what I mean by this is feeling okay about spending money into the places that I value in life. I think with the financial anxiety that I've had previously, whenever I haven't been getting paid as much or whenever I don't have an emergency fund, it can be really hard for me to spend sometimes. That doesn't mean I don't spend. Like I definitely do spend. I do buy things, especially in the past year, but I can have a lot of spending guilt sometimes. And so thinking of it as being spending in alignment, like we have money to spend it. Eventually, like obviously save, that means it's just gonna get spent down the road, or like two different things are gonna get spent in retirement or whatever, but like money is made to spend it. That's why we have money. And so I don't want to feel guilty for like getting a monthly facial if that's something that I want, I budgeted for, is within my like means of lifestyle. I don't want to like live a little decrepit life just because I feel guilty about spending. Like I want to be able to spend into things that can make my life feel more full, or not even full, like it doesn't even have to be that deep, but just things that are like fun. Like trading money for a fun experience is something that's okay. It doesn't have to have spending guilt that comes with it. It's what money is for. Goal number 9 is going to be to keep a to-buy list. I've seen several people kind of suggest this. I wouldn't say I have like a big problem with impulse spending. As I've said so many times in this video, wedding has kind of changed that because I've had to buy a lot of things for the wedding. But in general, I don't have too much issue with impulse spending as in big purchases, but there definitely are times where I buy things and then later I'm like, I didn't need that. Like I could have just saved and not gotten that. And so what I do plan on doing is keeping a little list, probably in my notes app. Sometimes I keep it in my photos too, just like if I'm taking screenshots of things. But if I see things that I want to buy, either writing it down in my notes or screenshotting it to save it for later so that I won't forget. And if I do end up wanting it, then I can see that, but also not revisiting it for a couple of days, because whenever you come back to that list of like things you want to buy, oftentimes several days removed, you probably won't even want them anymore. Or if you still do want them, then it can be something that is spending in alignment, like it's something you actually truly want and can trade your money for. But I do just want to be intentional about not just like quickly pressing buy and then regretting it later and wishing I'd saved, and actually purchasing things that I do want, that I would use in life, that bring quality of life, whatever it is. I just want to be intentional about that, and so I'm going to be keeping kind of a to-buy list to help me out with that. And then lastly, goal number 10 is going to be to maintain a budget tracker. 2024 was the first year that I started attempting to budget track, and it was a good system. Like I was making it work for me, but it wasn't the most organized system. Really, I used a template that someone sent me and I put it into Canva, and then I kind of adjusted it to fit me a little bit, but it was only monthly. And so I would like make a monthly budget, and then I would like duplicate it in Canva and then like make the next month's budget based off of it, but I wouldn't always keep up with it. I just like didn't figure out a good system for that. And I did find a budget tracker that I'm really excited about and we'll set up together. I have seen several people use these budgets, and it is the CoPlenty yearly budget. I personally got the 2.0, which I think is a little more advanced of like a Google Sheet, but you purchase it and it's a Google Sheet template, and there's a chance that I'll have a discount code for you by the time this video goes up. So look in the description below if you want it. They were cheap though. I think it was $17.50 without any discount code. And then if I do have a 10% discount code, I'll put it in the description for you if you are interested in it too. So this is the budget as it comes. It starts with the budget instructions. Go to annual totals tab, add budget name for income, bills, subscriptions, expenses, savings, and debt. And then it will like auto populate those into each month for the categories. So I do imagine that if more expenses or different categories come up, then I probably will have to alter it maybe, but I'm hoping to get a good start to where we can kind of be relatively all-encompassing as things are here. So annual totals, and then I believe it is here that we put different incomes. So I get paid every 2 weeks, which is 2 times a month usually. So I'm gonna do Anna check 1, Anna check 2, and then my partner gets paid once a month at the end of the month. So Zach check 1, and then I'm going to add in YouTube AdSense and other social media income, which sometimes is like brand deals or affiliate payouts. Sometimes it can be different things. Usually I'll just lump it all in together. Like when I've been tracking before, I'll lump all of that in together, but I do think it'll kind of be nice to separate it and see YouTube AdSense versus what else is happening that month. As of right now, my YouTube AdSense is about $200 a month, and then anything else is so sporadic that like it sometimes is a lot and it sometimes is a little. But overall, my social media income is very ancillary to my full-time job income. And I didn't mention this before, I've mentioned it in other videos, whenever I do get any kind of YouTube AdSense, brand deals, anything like that, they always just go straight to my savings, and I don't really count that necessarily into what I have available to spend. Partly being the fact that it's not taxed yet, but you really only need to save about 30% of what you get like YouTube or brand deals or anything saving because 30% is about what gets taxed. But for me, I just find it easier to just have that increase my savings through the year. It is quite nice just to do that, but I do want to track how much we're making each month. So those are a form of incomes. If I get any other form of income through the year, I will add it in there. I don't know what that would be, but it would be cool if I do. And then bills, I'm planning on doing the ones that truly like we pay monthly. What I haven't figured out quite yet is things like annual subscriptions or like annual payments. I'm not exactly sure where that's gonna go in here, but we'll figure that out. It might just go in the month that they're due. I don't feel like that's the smart, I don't know. It might, we'll see. But bills that are obvious and I know of, we have rent, we have power, and we have Wi-Fi. There is not much more bills that we have. As I mentioned, I don't have a car, so we don't have like a car insurance payment for me. Something that my partner and I try to do in order to help with our saving is just to keep living expenses as low as possible. Rent, power, and Wi-Fi are our main ones. I will say too, in our rent payment is also the like water, trash, like those kinds of things just go in there. I just don't feel the need to separate that out because they all stay the same. Subscriptions, my only subscriptions are Spotify, Apple storage, and then I also have a facial subscription that is every month, and I love it. And I don't believe Zach has any subscriptions. I should have checked with him. If he has any, I'll add them in here. Those are our main subscriptions. Expenses, I love that they kind of come pre-filled out. I will adjust some of them. Groceries, perfect. Dining out, perfect. For fuel, I'm just gonna put like car/transportation, and that's where any like Uber, Lyft charges, gas, oil changes, I feel like everything can kind of just go in there. Shopping, I'm just going to break down a little bit. I might have like one miscellaneous category, but I feel like we can break it down further. So I'm going to say coffee/breakfast. This is different than me to dining out. Dining out feels like you're going out to lunch, you're going out to dinner. To me, even if we get breakfast out, it still feels like we're going for coffee. Like it's like two separate categories. They count as two separate things. Home, perfect. Gifts, perfect. I think I'm gonna do gifts/donations. Those kind of just go together in my head. Like it's either a gift for someone you know or it's a gift for someone you don't know. We don't have any pets, so I'm gonna add in beauty/wellness. Health and medical we'll keep there. I don't know why I like spaces between my slashes, but I do. Health and medical. I am gonna put wedding in here, even though it'll only be applicable the first month of the year. It'll be nice for it to not be getting paid after that. See, I'm gonna put clothes/shoes and then shopping miscellaneous. They have a lot more custom expense rows, which I think is great, but I think I'm gonna have to just like play it by ear and see if the miscellaneous category starts having like a lot of one thing that maybe could just split off and be its own category. I'm not sure, but I do like that they have the freedom for you to add all of that. That is wonderful. And then for savings, as we talked about, I'm gonna have an emergency fund. I'm gonna have my Roth IRA, and that's like saving to contribute to my Roth IRA. And then my high yield savings outside of the emergency fund, just like regular savings. And then car down payment are my only like saving buckets, I suppose, for now. Debt, I haven't mentioned this yet. I do not have any debt. I don't have any credit card debt. I don't have any student loans, which I feel very lucky and grateful for. So we honestly can just skip over that. Okay. We put in all of our annual totals. So the budget names you entered will synchronize with the monthly budget tabs. Let's check that. Perfect. Yeah. So January, you can see like Anna check 1, Anna check 2, Zach check 1, rent, power, Wi-Fi, all of those things. I feel like we have to have more bills than that I'm just not thinking of, but I'll add them in later if I think of them. Oh, I love that they have a transactions tracker. Do you see that? Oh my gosh. So I'll be able to put date, something that was cost, and then, oh, that is wonderful. I'm pretty sure that the 2.0 might be the only one that has that. I'm not positive. Look it up whenever you're going there, but oh, that's good. Set up budgets for bills, subscriptions, expenses, savings, and debt. Oh, and income, add payday, expected, and actual. Scroll down to transactions tracker, add transactions. We're gonna go to January. Okay, I love this. So expected, actual, difference. I imagine there'll be a time in my life where I don't feel like as pay transparency as I do now, but for now I do feel pay transparency, so we can keep it up. But for my paychecks as I'm currently receiving them, I would say a baseline is $18.50 bi-weekly that I'm receiving like take home in my checking account. It does vary. It is not the same every paycheck because I am paid hourly, which ends up in my favor because I'm either getting paid for 40 hours or above. If there are any like lunches I work through, any days I have to stay late, come in early, any of those things, I do get paid for those hours, which is very nice. And I get paid time and a half for any time that's overtime. So it does just mean that my checks sometimes can vary because sometimes I'll have like nothing crazy, but like maybe I'll have a 43, 44 hour week, and that is a much bigger check much bigger check than when it's just like straight 40/40. So I find that $1,850 is a good expected to where I'm usually at that or above. And then Zach getting paid once a month, I think it's about $2,000 that he gets paid. His is a stipend for school, so it's different. He's not like working right now. YouTube AdSense, like I said, is about 200. Usually it's over. I'm sure sometimes it could be under 2, just depending on like views in the month and everything, but we'll count on 200. And then other social media income, I'm always gonna count on 0, I feel like, just because it is so sporadic that I would rather budget for 0 and then get to put more in savings than like count on putting something in savings that I'm not actually putting in savings. Oh, okay, payday. It says to put in the date. I'll have to check that. Let's see, I get paid December 27th, which means January 10th and January 24th. And then Zach usually gets paid the last Friday of a month, which will be January 31st. YouTube AdSense comes on the 21st. Other social media income, I'll just put at the end. And so then when we actually get paid, I'll get to put in the actual. That's exciting. Okay, and then rent is due the 1st of the month. Our rent, $1,709. And that's just gonna always be true, like at least until our lease is up. Power is due on the 3rd, and 100 I would say is usually typical. If anything, it'll be under. Wi-Fi is due, I think, on the 15th. I might have made that up. And it's $35 a month. Perfect. Subscriptions and memberships. Spotify is on the 9th. It is $11.99 because they increased it. Apple Storage comes on the 6th, and it is $2.99. And then my facials renew on the 3rd, and those are $100. Those are all our subscriptions. And then these expenses, I suppose I'll track in the transactions tracker as January actually happens. So what I do wonder for savings with budget, actual, and difference, I'm wondering if it's having me like budget what I think I'll be able to put in or like what I want to put in. I'll have to figure that out as we're actually doing it in January. And that's where doing like more monthly videos or something finance-wise coming into the new year could be helpful. Okay, add due date and budget amount for bills, subscriptions, expenses, savings, and debt. Let me see how amount. Okay, yeah, so they have it being like you're expecting to put $600 in your emergency fund. You actually put $600, different 0. Down payment on new car, that's cute because that's what I'm doing too. Come back over here. And so yeah, then I'll keep adding the transactions as January actually happens. Go to savings and debt overview tab, add name, goal, monthly amount, and the start, the amount you already have. And this is one that we'll look at it right now, but it probably will be more accurate after my wedding because, like I said, I have things in my savings account now, but it'll more so matter what I have in my savings account after all of those are done. Like Roth IRA, the goal is $7,000 to contribute. I'm starting at 0. I mean, technically, is that how? I keep forgetting my instructions and having to go back. Name, goal, monthly amount, smart. Okay, so if I'm wanting $7,000 in 12 months, that's, we'll just round to $585 a month. $585. Oh, cool. And then it filled that in with me. So left $7,000, progress 0% so far, estimated 12 months, estimated date that I'll have it is November 21st. And so then if I go above and beyond with that, perfect, can do. And then emergency fund, the goal is $10,000. The start, I'm gonna have to fill in later. And so then we'll see, and we'll kind of see, I guess that's where the budget can be helpful because it'll be seeing like how much extra money is left over or pay myself first. I'll have to figure that part out. Car down payment, the goal is $10,000 as well. Oh, that is $100,000. $10,000 as well. And I'll have to figure that out in January. But you can see where it's like splitting up my savings. This will be cool. And I just imagine the more that I play around with it, the more I'll see like what it's able to do, which is really cool. Savings and debt tracker is synchronized with all monthly tabs. When you add new transactions in the transaction tracker from each month, the savings and debt table will update. That's cool. So whenever I put a deposit into my high yield savings or something like that, or contribute to my Roth IRA, it'll update for me. The debt snowball calculator, I have heard, is so good. I have nothing to do there. I don't feel the need to change color. I feel like the pink is cute. So what will be happening is that all of these things will be filling in as I'm adding in my transactions through the year, and even to the extent that somewhere one of these graphs is like income overview, where you can see like if you're making more throughout the year, throughout months, so that when I do get a raise this year, I'll be able to see like, oh, I'm making more than I used to be. That is the end of my 2025 financial reset. I feel like I am ready to get going. I feel like I'm ready for the new year, ready for achieving new goals in the new year. I'm so curious to hear what one of your financial goals for this year is. We can work on them together. If you want more financial content like this, let me know, because I think that would be something that could be a great addition to this channel, but if it is beneficial to you too. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe before you go and like this video if you liked it, so I know to make more like it, and I'll see you next time.